Kia ora everyone, welcome to today's Tech Week. I'm Olivia Garaldo from Creative Northland, here at Northland Advocacy to support creatives. And here I've got with me is Aru Singh from Plunge Comics from Whangarei. Welcome.
Hey Liv, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Right, so hey everybody, my name is Aru, as Liv said. I run Plunge Enterprises New Zealand Limited. We are a multifaceted enterprise, which is basically shaped after an American company called Image Comics, where we have 4 different things that we do almost, which is run a comic studio, run a convention, and create comics. So, and a magazine. So we do a magazine called, we release it digitally. We were going to do it in print, but last year we were going to do it through Kickstarter, but of course last year happened and had to pull it off Indiegogo and say, yeah, we'll maybe try this again some other time. So Sunspot magazine is one of our to introduce New Zealand creators, New Zealand creatives as well. So we're photographers, Charm, who does cosplay photography. We had her doing her photos in there, and we had Shane Evans, who's our artist on Incredible on the covers there, and him showing off his paintings that he does. And so, so his unique style of artwork he does, horror is some of the things he does, makes fun. It's got a real unique
Style, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like almost cartoony, but not cartoony. But he's very well known amongst our circles, and he's a local guy, and very active in what he does, and airbrush as well as handling. So,
is it digital airbrush or
no, it's actual straight,
tangible,
yeah, physical, I guess, airbrushing. So but then he does a lot of things, paints his work, as well as he does digital art, that's been done digitally. He's colored it digitally.
Yeah.
So he sends that over, and he goes, he knows that I've got all the logos from Critical, so he sends me the blank, and I put the logo on, and I have to decide how it's going to work, because I got to make it work on her clothing. So how does it move on clothing? So it's really interesting, because for myself, I don't do hand drawing anymore. I gave up to when I had my hand injury. I felt it's basically just on a rodeo. I fell in the nightclub and sliced my fingers. So for a whole year, I just started craft design at Polytech, my first year, and about March of that year, into the first year, there goes my hand.
Yeah.
Right. So I used to I used to be able to draw this thing. This is up here. I used to do Eddie from Iron Maiden. That's what got me really into drawing and cartoonish style. Yeah. And I thought that's pretty something to bring. And I used to be able to draw him really well all the time. And detail work, pencil work was really detailed, and now I can't even do that because my hand gets very sore very quickly.
So you're forced to kind of use technology.
Yeah, so that's where we get into using something like a Wacom tablet, right? So this is one of the very, very early simple ones. I bought that for my nephew because I'm trying to get him into using, because he draws with the hand as well, but I'm thinking, well, one day you're going to be taking over my company. Right, because I don't have kids, I don't have any way to take over my legacy after all these things I do. So I'm kind of not the right word to use here, because it seems a dirty word right now, but grooming him as an artist and encouraging him since he was I guess about 7, and now he's using. I've just given him clips to your paint. If you guys are aware of comic books, and I would say maybe about very close to 40 to 50% of artists know about that, because they use it. Manga, especially manga artists, right? That unless they're doing freehand, a lot of the stuff they do is done all on clips to your paint, because it lets you set up everything the way you want.
And is it a free software?
No, but it's a very cheap software compared to something like Photoshop. You can have like you can buy an entry level clips. It used to be called Manga Studio Paint, Manga Studio, and over the last few years it changed to Clip Studio, maybe because manga kind of had not enough Western. That's what I think it was, because it wasn't a Western term to use, because it wasn't. But the whole thing is that it's such a great program. I've used it for maybe 10 years.
Wow.
And I want to be honest, I did use a broken one, like
Ripped version.
a ripped version,
Yeah.
and now I actually pay for it, and I actually bought it for my nephew as well. So the thing is, because it's such a quality product, and it's like, and here's the thing, like not everybody when you're starting out this way can afford a couple of $100. So you're like, oh, well, why are you using a ripped version? Because you're not able to afford it. And I think now we are able to afford it because more people are using it, and it's like Ford, right?
And you've got the monthly plans available.
Yeah, so that's what I'm on. I'm on a $9 monthly plan,
That's
right?
so cheap.
So it's like, and I could opt out, and then like I'm thinking like in a year I'll buy the entire program. That's going to cost me around about $280 New Zealand, and that's the expert version. So there's a pro version, there's an expert, but then there's a commercial version. So you can actually like have a classroom full of people for $1,000 using a program forever to have for themselves. Well, they use a monthly one, but I mean, like, so I got into that after struggling for maybe 3 years, like trying to do this 6 issues of this for 3 years using so using that using paint shop, using Photoshop, right? Point and click with a mouse and turning it, and so it looks very
Wacom.
without a Wacom. And I didn't even know about, I gave away I actually gave away when I was at film school a drawing tablet from Dick Smith, because I paid $70 for it, and I gave it to a guy to use it to draw like the starting of Incredible, right? So and he did like about 20 pages or something like that, and then I had somebody else do the other 6 issues and stuff, and I'm redoing that whole thing again. So
I guess, what you can actually see is like the big progression, I guess, from pixelization
Yeah.
onto real smooth lines,
Yeah,
just
so-
due to the advancement of technology and software programs.
Well, I mean, and like this isn't like after 3 years of not actually understanding what I could do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know about Clip Studio Paint. I didn't know there was a simple little thing there that could make your life so easy, right? You could actually click something and then curve it perfectly around a face.
Yeah.
And it's already there. You have houses that are already part of it. You have like streets part of it. You have like skies, trees. That's why I say like a lot of manga people use it, because they don't have to go looking for trees. I spend hours drawing trees perfectly because it's already there. I use like I would like for one of them, I think it was second issue of Incredible, I did a car over and over again because I could just move it around. And after drawing the car, so whereas if I'm drawing, I have to do the whole thing over and over again on my hand drawing.
Yeah, and I guess that allows you then for the artist to probably focus then more on the story.
Yeah.
As well. So
Yeah,
I guess the time frame, the full turnaround time, it actually quickens up with the increase of technology.
And that's a great part about that, because I mean, like for me, I'm a writer. I don't class myself as an artist. I'm a designer.
Yeah.
And like I think of myself as a designer and a digital designer at that, not even an artist as a digital artist, because what I do is I take images of other people's work, or no, not other people's work, sorry, photos of other people that I want to have as represented as the characters in there.
Yeah.
But superimpose that face onto what my artist has already done, so that it all looks uniform. And I struggle with it because I'm not an artist, and I haven't done have drawn people for about 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And so with this technology with Clip Studio Paint, it just expands everything for me. I'm able to do so much more with it. And like with the whole Wacom thing with the tablet, this is the most basic. It's almost like, I think there's another one below that. It's a bamboo, or I'm not even sure if that is the bamboo. But in 2010, I went through a separation. So basically, I took out a loan and decided that I was going to go back to school and finish off my degree in filmmaking, because something had happened and I'd missed out on 30 credits, so I couldn't graduate. So I decided that, okay, I'm not going to just sit around and do nothing. Now I'm just going to go back to school. I went to South Island at SIT down there and did my film degree, and then in 2010, like, so that was from like 2004 to 2006, the 3 years there. So after coming back to Auckland, I started doing short films, and then worked, and I had a shift work, so I worked weekends. So you go filmmaking weekends, right? So I couldn't get into filmmaking. So that's when I got into doing turning the comic. I was like, I need to tell my story, and I don't know why I decided comics was a thing. Because I'd been in filmmaking, I was like, I need to tell my stories, but I'm like, I've been reading comics since I was 7 years old, right? I mean, like, I've got like Garfield here. As a kid, I'm reading Garfield. As a teenager, I'm reading Garfield. And as a child, I was reading Judge Dredd and Tintin.
That's good.
Right? So I'm 8 years old, being introduced to Judge Dredd and Tintin in New Zealand. In the library. So the library's got Tintin and Obelix and Asterix, and my next door neighbor across the street is into Judge Dredd, and he's about the same age as me. 8-year-old kid from Fiji, who's the first whatever. I think I was reading Goofy or something. Like the shopkeeper had a Goofy or Mickey Mouse comic, and that's the first time I ever saw it when I was like 7 years old or something. I didn't even know what it was. It was just pictures. And so when we used to Regan Bell, right? He's the guy that got me into comics in a hard way. And for maybe about 5 years or something, I just read comics because it made me escape.
Yeah.
And I struggled because of learning and stuff like that, right? So here's an Indian kid who doesn't know how to speak English properly. And so Regan's house is here, and my mom sends me to the next house to be taught how to read English and spell and all that. And we are across the street. This is like in Lakey Street in Waterloo.
So I guess back then for you, there was already like a collaboration that was helping you network your way through the comic industry to where you are today.
I mean, it's like you
I guess post-COVID,
you can't really. I mean, comics can be a very lonely thing. Like manga is very lonely for people, and you can see them because they spend so much time on their own titles. You don't have 5 people working on, like, say if you're like with you're working on Punisher or Wolverine or that, or Judge Dredd. I'm sorry, or maybe even Judge Dredd. Or Superman. Star Wars comics. You have probably 2 editors, their assistants, you have a writer, you have a letterer, you have a colorist, and then you have an actual artist who does the pencil. And then you have the inker who comes in and makes it black. And then you have a colorist who makes it, colors it all up. And then you have the guy who does cover art. And so when you suddenly decide you want to do comics, you're like, I don't know nobody, so I end up doing that. We've just done all 5 or 6 issues of that, and this is basically from a film I did, a feature film, which is 85 minutes long, as part of my graduation thing for my degree, and nobody had ever done it big long. Like everywhere was like their max was 45 minutes, and I said I can't. I decided I'm kind of like a determined person and a jealous person. I actually I posted that a week or 2 ago. I said I turned my jealousy into production, right? So if I see this getting, I see toys, I was like, I need to make my character into a toy.
Yeah, so you're doing it with the Critter Girl, aren't you?
Yeah, so we've got a friend who's designing a Funko Pop type thing for me, because I'm like, well, let's pull it apart. How do we put this all together? So talking about toys, so this is like, so let's talk about part of our partnership that started back in around about 2012, 2011, which I forgot about because I had a head injury just after that. And I partnered up with a company called Rise and Sun Comics, because we I started my comic company as Rising Sun New Zealand, and because my full name is Aruneshwar, which means Rising Sun, so I named my company after that. And so what happened was that there's a Rising Sun Comics America, and somehow I don't remember a lot of it because of my head injury. I've forgotten all that, and so how that all came about. But all I know is something like they said, "Hey, we're here. We've got the same name. You got the same name. Would you like to partner with us?" And that's how it happened. And then suddenly I was creating comics with Incredible. I was getting started. We were doing a whole bunch of other stuff, and then I hit my head injury, and all of it went away. And so it took till just after that, I decided, well, I've got a huge interest in comic books, and I'd like to make a business out of it because this is like I'm 48 now, so I guess 40-year love of comics, maybe about 30 years of collecting them and reading them properly, and learning from them. And the thing is, like, learning how to write them. We've got a book here by Brian Michael Bendis, and Powers. If you guys might have seen the TV show called Powers, he basically susses out how he does his scripting.
Is there an app currently that you know of?
Yeah. So the way he does this, the way he writes the script. Now, because I'm trained as a filmmaker, I started using Celtx or Celtx, CLTX, and I've been using that program since I was in film school. So this goes back to about maybe 2003, 2004, and I've written like thousands of pages of scripts since then. I've
Like
written,
digitally.
yeah.
Can you think about how much that would be in terms of paper, hey?
It was, well, each story for me, I write as a movie, a 90-minute film. And if you look at 22 times 6 is our amount, was that like 180 pages, something like that, per graphic novel. So basically each one is right about this thing.
Wow.
So, by the time it ends up being produced, it's right about that. Oh, actually, yeah, it's 22 pages. And so it's, I've got like movies upon movies, and I've got short films, I've got one shots. I mean, like I was talking about earlier about Shane Evans. I created this guy back in when I had a comic shop. So that came out of like because my uncle was stabbed, right? So how do you, like, if you're a person like me who gets depressed very quickly and stuff, emotional, I learned to turn that, and especially with my help assistant, and to turn that into art. Put the stories into that, to turn into creativity. And that's what I'm about jealousy. Like, so when you look at something, you go, I can do that. But when you feel deeply emotional about stuff, and I thought, well, you know what? How would Punisher deal with this?
Yeah.
Right. I want justice.
Yeah. Your characters.
So that's him here. So like one of my is but at the moment he's not in everybody's thing, but like for years I've loved him because I think there's a thing in like, as a child you want justice, right? Because you know what's fair, what's moral and stuff as you're growing up, if you've been instilled into your life like that. And like I think my grandfather used to do that with us, say what's right and what's wrong. And so when my uncle was dead, I was like, how would this character do? So I write a short story, like and when so in 2014, I opened a comic shop up, and for about, I think we did 18 months. Yeah, we did about 18 months, and we tried really hard to make it work. But part of the shop was that we started doing I think a second bi-weekly or weekly teaching how to do comics. So that's how Shane and I got together, because we met when we were Polytech, like back in maybe 93 or 94, just because he was in visual arts and I was in craft design, doing sculpture, glass blowing, and jewelry. And I should have actually gotten into freaking visualize, right? Because I would have been, but I love making things, that's why I like the whole idea of tactiles, and I like people being able to run their hands across my paintings, being able to feel it. And so that's why I get into ceramic art, because I want people to touch it. And my teacher, Keith Mahi, who's my, who passed away a while back, he was a very famous New Zealand glass blower. And, and they're the ones who set up Burning Issues here, right? The four of them, I think it was Sandra Story, Chris Carey, and I think it's Sue. I can't remember. But she was Keith's partner, and she's still around. I still haven't met her yet. I've been meaning to. So he was like, Aru likes to touch, make sure it's, he can tactile things. He's like, look at his glass work. He doesn't like smooth stuff, I'm like, yeah, because why should we just have things there and go, no, you can't, that painting's so expensive, you can't touch it. Like this, the first thing kids want to do is touch things, right? So if I'm creating art, like jewelry and stuff like that, or ceramics, I want to be able to run their hands over it. But comics can't do that. But comics give you the instant smell, like this. There's this tactileness about it, and that's the thing. Like, so, okay, you can't go over it, but it's solid. It's in your hand. That's why I think digital, as much as I do digital art, and I don't, I don't want it to be still digital. I want it to be able to come onto the paper so people can touch it, read it, put it away, and then go back to it whenever they want, just like art, right? So it is art, it is literature, and I think whatever people think as if it's like, oh, it's children's thing, it might have been sometime, and that's the reason that's been that way is because of the fact that way back in 1950s, they got rid of every other type of comic books in America. So all you had for a long time was just superheroes. Yeah. Right? Man in tights, woman in tights, and so on. And so it got rid of, made it very slim. The whole thing, comics became very slim. But now, right? Now you've got, let me see, here we go. So you've got stuff like, very, very things. This is Fun Time Comics from Christchurch, right? So the guys down there, they have a group, a co-op, and and here's talking about jealousy here. Is like when I got into comics, I was like, one day I want to be in this magazine, right? And this is like a while back, maybe about 2009 or something, and I really want to, be a part of New Zealand heritage. I wanted to be say, hey, not jealousy, but it's just the whole thing is like, why can't I?
You want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, your access to technology has allowed you to really do that. And I think trial and error, hey, 'cause I mean, recently you've just looked at doing publishing with Calder's print. Yeah. So that's a whole different side of things as well. That's a huge thing because I never actually got into print before. This is my first time getting into print. I mean, our guys over in Rising Comics in America, they printed this out here. So so being a small company like us, like any company like us, right? We can't compete with these guys. We really can't compete with all these guys because they have billions of dollars behind them, like millions of dollars behind them. And if the comic fails, they don't care. Because it's there, they can make another movie, make their money back. But when when you're a little company like us, you got to make sure that it's your quality, the card, because their one's like it's very thin, the ink comes off, the paper's got to be like very, we can't beat them at production. I mean, sorry, we can't beat them at popularity, but we can try to compete with them. I should say, not beat them. Compete with them for the customer's attention to detail and to quality of paint and paper. That's why, like for me, we're doing a with Impredigo, right? That's the first. We're going to Kickstarter through Rising Sun Comics thing, and we basically said
we're gonna do only for this special Kickstarter thing, only gonna print in New Zealand and only in Whangarei. Because we want to say this is our home base, this is where this character is based. The superhero is from New Zealand, but she's also from Whangarei. And so I wanted to make sure that we had some sort of, to say that printed in New Zealand. I mean, the American side of things, they're running a whole bunch of comics they're running just that.
And are they doing, how far are they taking the comics in terms of their digital space, whether it be on YouTube or?
Well, I mean, for the digital, like we do web comics.
Or e-publication.
Yeah, so for us, we like I was mentioning earlier, we did the Sunspot, became digital download comics. So you could pay like $2.99 on our site, on Rising Sun Comics site, and you could basically pay and download it. 64-page, full color, with interviews of New Zealand people in there and people around the world, and comic books, 40 pages of comic books for $2.99, right? So, and not only just that, you got like pretty much like a fun time comics of all different art stories. So I said, well, we want a complete story when you do these things. We don't want like we got to buy the next magazine to get the story. So with Fun Time, with pandemic last year, right? So the guys, his name's just lost me, but I interviewed him. Because like last year when pandemic hit, I was told by the US that, hey, this is going to take 4 weeks, right? Buckle in, it's going to take 4 weeks. So you're going to be shut in. And I was like, man, that's a long time for artists to be on their own inside their home. So my whole thing was like, what if, and that was my whole focus for them. It's like, what if every day I got up and said hello to everybody and said, hey, I don't want you guys getting depressed. Let's talk. And so I started interviewing people, and he was part of it. I interviewed him. I interviewed a whole bunch of Kiwi artists and creatives and people from overseas during pandemic, right? So everybody's at home. So I rang up, I got the guys from, Armadillo Justice, from Rising Comics, and also I got the guys from Henry, and there's another one here somewhere. There is, Black Lives Empire and Collapse. I got them to come in and go, hey, let's talk and talk about your comic. Let's talk about what got you into comics.
And it's probably quite different for them to even be engaging in terms of an interview kind of space, hey, and talking about their work in that way. So that's really awesome.
I mean, I'm used to interviewing because I did radio work. I did 2.5 years of radio work. And so, and I'm chatty. So I think engaging them to talk about what they create and why they create and why they write what they write was a really cool thing, because then we put the video up on Facebook, then we put it on YouTube, and it was like people who didn't even know who these artists were suddenly were seeing who they were, and they were could see, oh, this is what this book's about. So for us on Rising Comics, like you're talking about technology, you could basically buy the comic from the website and it will get delivered to you around the world. And so
accessibility just expands, hey?
Yeah, so I mean, and the other thing is like, so I'm working with like an artist from a Greek artist who's living in Estonia right now. Right, we're doing a series called anthropomorphized animals, Kiwi animals. Like, I mean, not really Kiwi, but they're living in New Zealand. There's a called PJ and Shivi, the modern bear, right? So we got an Australian black sheep, we got a rabbit, mum, and we've got, and then for the Shivi, he's a polar bear, and the mum's a grizzly, and so now the daughter's a brown bear, right? Like a light brown bear, mixed race, I guess, or species. So basically, how does this? So she's like around about 80 years old, just coming out of college, and she's trying to get a job, right? So how does she deal with like the pressures of modern life, this modern life, and social media and all that? And how do these animals, deal with modern life in the society? And so I called, I think it was Chitta instead of Twitter. Like, I think it's like animals. What is it like? Birds or CHITTER instead of Twitter. Like, so and stuff like that, and like iCarrot instead of Apple or iPhone. It's sort of like and then he designed, like I said, this is what I want, right? And like the Chibi and PJ come go way back for me with this in EBS. My sister, I made a little orange teddy bear for my sister for a band called the Shibis. She was a ska band as part of a church, and PJ was an angel halo teddy bear with that PJ on it. So I brought these things from the past into last year and said, hey, I really want to do this cartoon thing, right? So I wanted to do a strip. So basically, this sort of like three panel strips like Garfield and stuff, and just tell a story in 3 strips, because I'm used to telling 130-page story, 90-page story, and then try to tell it into 3 strips. So it's challenging, and I think technology has really helped me do that. I can get it. I mean, like, we're working on another thing called Templeton Torn, which is an entire, supernatural horror series, which is like, it's got about something like that 300 pages, and he's working on the first 40. And I get up on Messenger and start talking to him for an hour. Hey, so this is what I want to see. So I can turn my phone around to the screen on my TV and go, this is the picture that I want to. How does that happen without this technology that we have, right? So imagine a guy from Estonia working from a guy from New Zealand, creating 2 different series, like one's a horror thing and one's teddy bears, right? And animals and protests and all this. But it wouldn't happen without having like Facebook Messenger, Skype. Wouldn't happen without the fact that Rising Sun already was working with them, because he's doing his own thing as well. He's got his own comic books that he's doing, but he then works on my stuff, and we got the series as good as possible, because I'm saying I would like to see one day PJ and Shibi become an animation, right? So something like Family Guy or something, but with animals and then toys, right? I'm saying I want these to. So I'm not thinking like, hey, this is just a comic strip. I'm thinking, how do I get from this to from this to this to TV show,
and make a whole ecosystem of your own.
Yeah, and not only just me. So when I was setting up Plunge Enterprises, right, there was all these different things: Plunge Games, Plunge Animation, Plunge Studios, Plunge Convention. Did I mention gaming? Yeah. So Plunge Gaming. So like you could have like Play Incredible as a game, it's a light novel, and so you get engaged with people, and then you got Plunge merchandising, so you get the toys and stuff. So
who did you use for like the merchandising? In terms of like the toy production, was that difficult?
Well, for the guy who's works on this one, this is like an American. This is a US bombardier from Action Force. So there was a way back in the 80s, and this is something that Rising Sun does as part of their like a British side, because like Rising Sun Comics, we're Oceania, right? So I represent Oceania. I'm the director of Oceania, and so there's four directors altogether. So there's a US, and then there is a UK, and then there's also a free non-profit organization as well. So these guys, the UK deals with like old publications, like the Action Force stuff, which is like space, bomb. I know, I just can't remember, my brain just can't think, but like back in the 80s, they used to have all these sci-fi space, like the size of, basically, they produced them about yay big, like, the big paper newsprint comics, like the Judge Dredd come out, like, and then they used to like for girls as well, and then, so thanks. Whereas this is the thing, like people think that comics is just for guys, but like way back then, there's always this equal thing of females working on their own comics, and comics for females, comics for young boys, young girls, and and now we're going back to making it, and that's where manga becomes so cool, is because and why the US market is at the moment suffering, because manga doesn't say, let's talk about politics in our comics, right? And this is the same thing with me. I'm like, if I want to talk about politics, it goes somewhere else. and some other strip, you know, so I'll go, this goes here. When it comes to like saying Incredible, I'll go, well, let's talk about why Incredible was where she is. Like she's actually Romanian, right? So and the story is inspired by the Romanian Ceausescu and the communist regime that was there, and because of the way they were treating the orphan babies, right? And the stories actually like the name of the character is inspired by my brother, my niece, and then my brother-in-law who shortened it. So especially like because like back in 2007, I was like, it'd be cool to do a superhero comic, but for girls. I mean, not for girls, but like that was female, right? And like, so my go-to wasn't, hey, let's do a guy superhero, like a male superhero. My first thing was a female, and it's like my niece had just been born. I hadn't spent much time because I was away from school, and so she was about 4 years old. She had just seen The Incredibles, and so she goes, I said to her like, hey, if you had a superhero that for yourself, what would you call it? And she's like, Incredible Girl. Yeah. That was her. That's basically in my and because the Incredibles had come out, and my brother-in-law goes, hey, you know, yeah, that name might cause you trouble, so why don't we short it? What about Incredible? I said, yep, that worked. So that's what Incredible got painful. And so here we are, 2007, to now having the first print of the first issue. I worked on the first, second. I mean, I'm not the only one who worked on it. So there was like I said before, when we were doing like talking about the Awaken thing with the tablet, we had Mike Payne, who was in a year later than like I was in third, like I was in a year ahead of him film school, and so he did like 15 pages because he was doing the manga. So the Incredible was actually a manga character. So this is the weird thing, because like this is way back in like 2006. I'd actually the comics was actually manga, so it actually looks manga-ish because when I had Mike Burbeck from England come in and work with me on it via Facebook, it might have been through DeviantArt. So I was actually without Patreon. There's no let's talk about like doing online stuff. Patreon, you can make money by Patreon, by creating your own work and selling it either in physical or in digital. We've got people locally who do that. I myself, I'm working on a game, script writing, a game editing, co-writing, and script editing.
Is that for print or digital or online?
Online game. Like, so basically you can download it for the computer. It's a light novel. So light novel, sorry, not a light novel, a visual novel. Yeah. Right. So it's a point and click text based, either 3D animated, pencil drawn, or some people use photos of actual people. But it's because they want to tell a story. If they don't have technology, if they don't know how to use Rampy, or if they don't know how to use,
is it the program you're creating it with?
Yeah, we're using Rampy, but there's other one, Unity, right? And so Engine Room, right, down here, where we're going to have a Plunge, they teach that, right? So Lenny and the guys down there, and this is what I like I found about, I think maybe about what they were doing after I got involved with gaming. And this is what I'm saying, like when we, I don't see comics as just a paper medium or a digital medium. I see it as a business enterprise, but not only stopping there, but I don't know how to design toys. I don't know how to do 3D animation. I don't know all these other things, but I know there are people out there locally who do. And then I'm like, how do I bring them to work? I say, how do we come on this project and work this? And the thing is, the problem with like our mentality for a long time has been giving money first, and then I'll do the work. Whereas now people need to understand that you gotta do the product, right? That's the way like gaming works online. So like, especially if you're doing it through Patreon or Subscribe stuff like that, where people pay you monthly. Like like I get stipends because I volunteer to work on this really, I think 10 chapter, 12 chapter, too many chapters or something like that. They do specials. So like Easter releases or Christmas releases, short stories, but then they do like a huge, like at the moment he's done about 640 renders of CGI, like 3D CGI, actual realistic looking people.
Yeah.
You know, and his delivery this month will be a bit late because, you know,
and people appreciate that.
He has
that
a-
transparency through technology to say,
and
hey, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where Discord comes in. So he's on Discord going, I see the message, yeah, you know, I'm behind. That means that my editor's going to be behind because he's got to edit, and then my proofreader is going to be behind.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get it down, it might be a couple of weeks, if not that quick. But I work really fast. I'll just go, do I need to do anything else? No. Let's go. So I'll spend like 2-3 hours until my brain freezes. So because of my head injuries, I can concentrate for about maybe max 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then the drowsiness hits and the tiredness hits, and I'll just go to sleep.
In terms of your proofreading,
Yeah.
if you were to send that off to a proofreader, what is the best application or app that you use for that, or how do proofreaders like to
Right.
receive your work?
So he will send me the script with the points.
Yeah.
Beats, as I say, like, so
Okay.
this is going to happen here, this is going to happen here, this is going to happen, you know, they're going to be in this room, what's going to happen here, this guy's going to come up, this is what I want to outline to, you know, basically an outline of what's happening in there.
And is it on like just a Word doc? What are we talking?
We're talking about oh gosh, come on, it's a script editor.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically it's like code. It's like editing for code. So it'll be like, oh gosh, it's especially computer code.
Mhm.
So it's, you know, it basically says what's going to happen, and I'll write in the text. I'll watch what's happening, and on one screen, and then I'll have the editor up the code with the script, the whole story there. And as I see mistakes, I'll edit.
Yeah.
And change. And if there's some sort of animation, so this guy's one, like not everybody says animation.
Mhm.
So he animates sequences, little scenes, and so I have to go in and go, okay, so during this time I need to put in text that makes it exciting. There's no, like, you know, this, so the week, like, so not everybody who's a very artistic person knows how to write a story properly, or has spent 3 years in school learning how to write a script. Or prior to that, I spent like about 6 years of doing stage work and writing my own short stories or short films or skits or production, and then went to film school for 3 years. So, you know, the technology allows me, right, to be able to talk to him via Discord, not knowing who he is. You know, I use a false name, right? Because it's a different thing to what I'm doing here, and it's just what I chose. It's like basically calling myself Malfunction from my DJ name. So I went from having this release as Malfunction to Incredible now released as our initial base things, Incredible. So, you know, because everybody's used pseudonyms forever. I mean, like Richard Bachman, right? Stephen King, right? And so, and I think Richard Bachman wrote The Running Man with Arnie, right? And so, but he wrote those stories because it was sci-fi, it wasn't horror, so he wrote it under a pseudonym. And so this is, so for me, I mean, like I write all genres. And so I've got superhero, I've got a crime drama, noir, about 4 guys who play a game, right? And they get caught in a crime and basically spend time like me and you are doing here with the cops talking in separate rooms, but flashback story. And so, but then I also, like, you know, I've got a tune. which is very political in a sense, but funny political, you know, they're taking jabs at children. But then I'm working on horror fantasy, like angels and demons, and then now I'm working on a vampire and a werewolf story about a mum and son. So it's like this whole concept of mother-son relationship. So it's totally allowing myself to not be boxed into, hey, I'm just going to do comic books about superheroes, because that's just gets boring very quickly.
I guess it kind of brings you to, I guess, closing off with a few questions in terms of where do you think the comic industry's ending up or leading towards? I mean, you see so many changes already with technology, and I think, it's great to hear that it's still going to have that tactile, physical thing. I think that people still like those that, you know, love records, they still like that physical, tangible product.
I mean, they said that when digital came, comics would no longer be printed. But the thing is that we are physical, tactile, emotional beings, right? So like I was saying, like I can open a comic and smell that print. And you know it's that connection that comes with it. You got that. When I was a kid, I had my first comic book, right? And so I could enjoy that. And I think technology isn't going to take that away. It cannot, because as long as we're human with emotions, we will still want to feel and touch, right? And so it's part of who we are. It's human nature, and you can't take that away from things. That's why we look at, you know, kids play with,
and the merchandising and the emotional connection to be like, I just read about superhero, I want to have the toy now, and how accessible those things now are. Hey,
I mean,
the
talk
plush
about that.
toys.
So like you had the Netflix Jessica Jones. Right. I liked the first season. I loved the second season. I hated the third season. But I liked the character. I read the comic books. I thought it was really cool. And she was created by Bendis, right? So Bendis was just like me, writing his own comic books, and then he got hired by Marvel Comics, right? So he went and did a couple things there. Now he's working with on superhero comics with in DC. Now last year hit the comics really hard, but last year was really good for manga, and so because of that, instead of people go, a lot of the pros going, hey, manga is doing well. Why is it doing so well? And asking questions like that, they basically started attacking manga, which is basically another form of comics, right? And so the idea of this whole concept of like one style is better than the other, I don't understand that, because I mean, we've had all different types of arts before. So like, I mean, if you look at the history of New comics alone by Adrian Canute, right? You've got so many different styles. So this is just New Zealand.
It's an awesome book.
So yeah, he did a lot of tough work on that. And so, one of our well-known guys from New Zealand. So I mean, I've got some books here. So you got Dylan Hurricks. He got to work. I think he won an Eisner for one of his works. And so, we had Brotown, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. So maybe it's Brotown that got into my head to do like the whole idea of doing Shivi and PJ about a bunch of animals with human traits, whatever, but still animals in New Zealand, because it's cartoons, and I love cartoons. So like I watch manga profusely because I think they just tell stories, and good stories. At the end of the day, if my stories are crap, nobody's gonna want it, right? So I have to enjoy my own stories, or else why would I expect anybody else to? So at the end of the day, like movies that fail, right? Blockbuster movies that fail, they fail because the story doesn't connect with people. And I wanted, you as a writer, you want to connect with your art, right? And so, like I was saying, I'm not an artist, I'm not a comic artist because I don't do pencil work. I can't actually do a figure properly. I get some other people to do it properly, and then I tweak it around to where I want it.
Awesome.
So I think there is always going to be the sequential art. It is sequential art. Yeah, comics basically, and that's the words we use for it. But manga, there's manhwa from Korea.
Yeah.
There's manhua, MANHUA from China.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about other countries. I mean, there've been Indian comic books for a while from India. And they do, I mean, I don't think they had superhero mostly, but they had real people type thing. There was more religious stories. But superheroes is basically is an iconic American thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you look at Europe, they do everything else. Most, I mean, they do superheroes as well, but they do everything else. You know, you got Tintin and Obelix came out of there, with the most two famous, you know, European exports. And I was reading that in Morewa, you know.
So I guess next for you for Plunge, where can people come and connect with you and all you have to offer? So you want to tell us about that?
Right. So
and then we'll close up with some questions. If anyone's got any questions from out there, please feel free to type them in the Q&A and I will read them out. So
I'd almost forgotten people were there. So because we were talking so much. Sorry guys, I was hopefully I didn't bore you.
Next comic gig.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
All right, so we've got Incredible is going to be on in June on Kickstarter, right? So we got posters. Olivia's doing a cover. We got custom covers, one-off covers. We got
5 from I think Northland, right?
Yeah, 5 from Northland. Shane's going to do 5 exclusive, different only covers, and these are like because of talking about technology, right? So Kickstarter crowdfunding your efforts, people believing in what you're doing, and you know, and just like Patreon, you know, and I guess Twitch and YouTube with you know, doing videos and stuff. But with you're able to do like, you know, come up with a game, and a card game, and put it on, you know, on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and have people back it, and you deliver it. And so, you know, my whole thing is see, you know, will people get into this comic? I've kept it very low cost because I said like it's $1,200 US, right? So that covers our costs and covers our artist costs. Make sure that our artists who are doing the custom work gets paid, because as a creator myself, I want to be paid. So I want to make sure that people who are working with me get paid as well. So at the, you know, this is the thing about what I don't understand with corporations. Why aren't they paying people that do the work and use the work? So you got, you know, I mean, there's so much history about what the bad history with comics and creators.
And
so,
do you want to tell us about Plunge and where that will be? So just running it.
Cool. Okay, so in 2018, Hindu from Creative Northland asked me about what I did, and then she just suggested, had I ever thought about doing a convention? So we decided in 2019 first to do a convention, and so Plunge Comics, Plunge with what is that? Is that thing, right? So whatever that is at the end, capital Plunge, basically comics, anime, and pop culture convention. It's basically our youth being able to actually access the pop culture environment they're into, come, you know, be able to dress up for that one day and nobody's going to do anything about it, like Halloween.
And what date's this?
This is the 10th of July.
10th of July, everyone. So
Saturday.
come along to 116.
Yeah, 10th of July, from 11 o'clock till 4 o'clock, just a 5-hour slot. But this year we're going to try something different. We were looking to like engage into digital art, game design. We got engineering coming. We've actually set aside a special room this year for kids to be able to create comics. We're hoping that the council will fund that. The Whangaro Council will fund that through their arts scheme, arts and the community scheme, for kids to draw their own comic, 1 or 2 page comic, black and white, and then we'll put it all together and make a comic that they could have, and A5
Badge
size.
creation.
Yeah, so libraries does badge creations and stuff like that. You can make your own badge, cut up old comic library books, make up your own badges, and also they do zines. And then they have a 3D printer. You can, and this is the thing that technology-wise, we're going to like 3D printing, right? I saw someone on Instagram, a cosplayer on Instagram, make her own Far Cry or some game, laser cutting pieces like layers and with a foam, and then she would glue them all together, and it was like a kit set. But I'm watching this machine just cut up this design out of it, and so with the STL, I think it was last year. Sorry. I think it was 2018, the library, Glenn there, who was a great guy, and Meredith, they printed out an entire Pokemon chess set for us.
Wow.
With them, with their,
3D printed.
yeah. And so, and then they, what they had a couple left there, and they put it up there to show the kids that, look at this. And think of the prices of a 3D printer keeps going down. And I'm like, it'll be nice to have one for us if we design out a toy, so we could little toys we could put on Kickstarter, and whenever we release a comic book, we put like a chair that you get like $5 to get a toy with it of the character. And then you could paint it yourself for home. And then we could set up a chessboard of our own characters, so it's, I mean, when we look
What's your oyster?
yeah, so there is that, that's where technology is so friggin' awesome right now. The money, I mean, to be able to do it, all you need is passion, right? You got to be willing to do the work. I mean, like I said, my brain shuts down after 2 hours, and because I'm on a lot of meds because of my head injuries and stuff and car accident, so I can only function for a little while. But I have people who work with me, right? Like we've got Shane, he's popping up. I mean, Jason was there assisting me with the finances side of things, and and just making sure we're connecting. Awesome. And I think the other thing, like I haven't mentioned Creative Northland that much. I mentioned Hunu, but without Creative Northland, we wouldn't be able to do with Plunge what we have. And because she got me kickstarted into it. I had thought about doing it if the comic shop had succeeded, but didn't because of the way things were going and the challenges I faced. But I think because and the local sport, like we've got like the movie theater, right? We've got so many people, the library, we've got House Pizza supported us, Warehouse supported us. So yeah, and because it's the whole idea is it's like that's what Plunge is about. It's about community, right? So you could go and play your Yu-Gi-Oh card game or Flesh and Blood. Check out Flesh and Blood. It's a New Zealand created card game, trading card game, right? And that blew me away because I was like, yes, another New Zealander, bunch of New Zealanders creating something to take to the world. And I think that's what it is. I mean, we're very number 8 wide innovative people in New Zealand. And as Kiwis, I think that whole pioneer spirit is in us. And I don't know if it's, I mean, I was born in Fiji, right? So I came in as a child at 7. So everything about me is Kiwi. So I guess the pioneer spirit of who we are as a people, as Kiwi, which we should be proud of, is something that I want to instill in our youth as well. Why, when you come to Plunge, see what's going on, be a part of it, and use comics as a stepping stone to get to making movies, get to making your own comic books, get to making toys, get to making games, get involved in TV. I mean, we've got a great, film industry. So why not?
Thank you so much, Aru Singh, for sharing your story. head along to Plunge Comics at 10th of July at 116 in Whangarei, and you can share more about Plunge.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, everyone.
You can catch up what we're doing on comic trade on Facebook, or on our Plunge Enterprises NZ, I think it is, on Facebook, or Plunge NZ on Facebook, something like that. But also we have a website as well, which is plungecomics.com. And yeah, I think the world's our oyster now with this technology that we have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you.